Hi, I'm Jeanette.
And I'm Zeke. Welcome to another episode of
Oh-My-Geekers, a podcast where we geek out about anything and everything.
This week, my dad and I chatted with Yossi, a citizen of both the US and Israel.
Yossi shares his take on some of the recent peace deals we've seen in the news and what it's like to immigrate to the Middle Eastern nation of Israel. So grab some falafel and hummus and enjoy.
All right, joining us on the phone today is Yossi. He is a Messianic Jew. He's got dual citizenship in the United States and Israel. Yossi, can you hear me okay?
I can. How are you today?
We're doing good, man. Good. Thank you for joining us today. I don't know if you maybe heard or not, but it's kind of a big day. We are recording this on September 11th. This episode will probably air here in the next couple weeks, but was announced today that Israel and I believe Bahrain came to an agreement for them to recognize the state of Israel, and it's kind of big news. I know this is like the second time in the past 2 weeks that Israel's been in the news, and as a citizen, I mean, what is your take on that, and what would the everyday guy on the street in Israel think about this news?
Well, I think it's a really good concept. I think it's like the wave of immigration. The biggest thing in Israel, the biggest mitzvah, I would say, in all four corners of the earth is to, come back home to Israel as a Jew. And the biggest mitzvah in the Hebrew context would be to come back to Israel. And so as a citizen living, in Israel, we've made peace with Jordan. We've made peace with, we've made peace with Egypt, and we've made peace with, Turkey, believe it or not. And so we're trying to make peace. We've always been the peacemakers. And Israel's, as a Jewish nation, Israel's always been a peacemaker. Even the Talmud, in the Jewish Talmud, and the Mishnah and all that, basically, we're a peaceful, state. We're a Jewish state, but we're peaceful. And so I think that peace agreement is one step closer to being not only recognized by the rest of the Arab League and the rest of the world, but by just bringing the consulates from all the other countries and seeing that Israel has a lot to bring, not only to the rest of the world, but to the just to the peace process. That's our gesture of saying, hey, look, we're willing to give peace, and we don't have to give up our land because it's our land, and that's a whole new segment. But I hope that answers your question on that. So I think Benjamin Netanyahu is doing a very good job. I think, President Donald Trump has done an excellent job on bringing, a peace agreement together. And I think there's going to be some bad players in there.
Yeah, there's always someone that's trying to, is wanting or willing to, try to mess things up or throw a monkey wrench in all these agreements, or I don't know, any time you're trying to make peace, there's always going to be, obviously Satan's going to be opposed to it, but there's that's always driving any sort of unrest over there. What is the mood there right now? I know you're in the Midwest right now, but I mean, you obviously have friends and probably close contacts within the state.
I think our eyes are on the process, and I think our eyes are on the process of what's next, as far as who's going to recognize us next, and what's in it for this peace agreement. And so some Israelis, have talked about, hey, we're not going to give up the land for peace process, and this peace plan consists of, what are we going to do with the Palestinians, and how's that going to work out with, the Palestinian state trying to, bring in their peace plan into this whole agenda. And so, and I don't really see, I don't know. That's going to be a political issue with the Likud and all the other parties that are involved right now. And so I think our eyes are on the whole, what's going to happen. Because you got to think, we've been making Aliyah, we've been absorbing into Israel for generations now. We've always been in Israel. We ever since, the beginning we've been there. But the Aliyah absorption has been going on for years. And so, the basically it's coming down to who's going to recognize this next, and where are we going to go with this? And so we're not going to give up land, because land's not going to be the issue here. I don't think it's going to be the issue. I think it's going to be how we can, as a nation, get along, and we have been, and allowing. We're doing good. I really see a real good peace process here so far.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of land to give up there, man. It's a very small place. So, well, I don't know. Tell a little bit of your story, I guess.
So I go back and forth. I travel back and forth a lot, and I've seen the changes from we got to look at. We have to see that the in 1948. Let's go back. Let's rewind this back to May of 1948. We see the Declaration of the Independence at the beginning of the immigration wave, and we see the immigrants, how, we absorbed so many immigrants after the Holocaust, and after, we had so much a wave of immigrants coming in, and then we see, the immigration coming in from Aliyah, from the Arab countries, and, we see a mass exodus happening, and we see it, and it's changing. Israel's changing dramatically in a good way. And last week, about 2 weeks ago, we just had Mexico come in with a wave of immigrants. It's a blessing, and it's a mitzvah. And so we have a lot of immigrants, especially from the 1990s. We were able to, from the Soviet Union when it collapsed, we had more than 1 million Soviet Jews come to Israel, and it was a massive influx of new immigrants. And it hit the Jewish state, and we learned how to adapt. And then now we have North America and South Africa Jews and England Jews making that immigration to Israel, especially Ethiopian Jews from all around the world. But we do have, and forgive me for talking so much, it's a lot to say because it's a lot of stuff going on. We see the changes in Israel. So we see a lot of Jews coming from everywhere around the world, and we see a Aliyah, a beautiful thing happening, and we see, different Jews with, absorption ideas and how we're absorbing them. And it's housing, it's education. And I think preparation is the key. And the Jewish state is doing a very good job of it. And the airplanes fly, they land. But the question is, how do we make the citizens feel welcomed? And how do we make the parents feel at home? And so the obstacles are there, but I think that the big key and the big role for the agencies, the Jewish agencies and the Jewish state of Israel is to, on a national level, plan and have good concepts of absorption. And they're doing a very good job of it. And so, and if that's strange, I don't know what it is, but it's normal to me. I mean, it's awesome. We all get along. I mean, there's going to be times when we don't, but as far as troubleshooting, we get along good. I mean,
talk a little bit about that. I mean, as far as like, there's, in America, there is a, obviously Israel's situation's way different as far as immigration goes, but as someone who has dual citizenship, as someone who made that I don't what do you call it again? Where you go? Right. So when, like, what is were you guys welcomed in? Did you feel like immediately part of it? Like, what was that whole process like for you?
The process was unique. Okay, so once again, let's take January 2015. Events such as the Charlie Hebdo shooting in France. You had a hostage crisis that took place, and it was a shockwave. And the French Jewish community as a result of those events, they're persecuted. And so, in 2015, we business and investors and Israelis, the startup investments, we proved we planned a way to make the Aliyah process and to bring in 250,000 more French Jews into Israel by the year 2030. And we're getting a lot of new Jews from Israel, from France absorbing in. But the question you're asking is how do we feel? I don't think it's a matter of how we feel. It's a matter of choice where the Jew wants to live. It's the Jewish people are strong no matter where we are, and I think it's up to that Jewish person, no matter where he is, to make his home. But the Jewish state would love to make his home in Israel because they see that it's better for him and better for us because, let's face it, a lot of Jews are persecuted, and especially after that terrorist attack in France, you see the safety net where they can come home. Every Jew has a right to come home. And so I felt as myself very comfortable when the plane landed, and I felt very secured and very loved and very taken care of. And we have a lot of Jews making Aliyah in the top countries, are Russia, Ukraine, United States, and I think getting along with a lot of these different countries and Jews absorbing is the key, and how we come together as a Jewish nation and focus on what's next as absorption. So you got to think about it. Absorption, the United States, when they absorb slowly, but Israel's absorbing in a large mass, inflection. So you got Russia, Ukraine, United States, France, Belarus, Brazil, United Kingdom, Canada, Argentina, and so forth. Even Turkey, Venezuela, Germany, and the list goes on. So we're coming back home from all four corners, and it's very interesting, and it's strange, but it's awesome.
Wasn't that prophesied in the book of Ezekiel?
It was, So if you take a look at the Bible, you can see in the Bible where, God wants, all the Jews to come back to Israel. And so basically he wants us to absorb home from all corners. It's just like, look at we have now, a Jewish state. It's amazing. We've always had one, but now we're more open and we're growing very fast. It's amazing. Yeah, and it's prophesied. It is. So, and it's a blessing.
So what would we have listeners kind of all over the world now. It's a trip to see where people are listening to this show. Talk a little bit about let's say I was if I was Jewish and I'm listening and I'm like, you know what, I think I'm going to look into going home. What would you say to expect?
I'm sorry, I would say Deuteronomy. It's, chapter 30, 1 through 5. The gathering of Israel is important, and it's biblical. And so, it's important, gathering as a Jewish, the diaspora, and gathering back to a Jewish nation, which we already were. The diaspora. So in Deuteronomy 30, it was given by Moses to us, Israel Jews. Prior to the entrance of the land of Israel, Eretz Yisrael, we were promised Israel, and we had Israel. We were captive. Remember, in the Bible, we were captive, but Ezekiel encouraged the people of Israel with the promise of the future gathering of the exiles to the land of Israel. And so, the hatikva, the hope of the return of the Israelites in the we're coming home now, and God is gathering us. Moses' promise is there. God's promise is there. The prophets in Isaiah, it's there. It's there. And so I would say to the Jew that wants to yearn home, is to come home. The Jew always belongs in Israel. This is where the Jew belongs. And that's what I would say.
And so, what would that process look for them? Like, what could they expect when they start that process of what did it look like for you as an American?
Well, I think everybody's different. So everyone makes Aliyah for different reasons. Some give up their life to come to Israel, and some make it for religious religions. Some make it for because it's easier as a Jew to live in a Jewish state. And I would say, literally, I would say the process is it's not very complicated. And I think the Aliyah process takes time, sure, but the state of Israel is there to help the Jewish person that wants to come home, and so it's there, and the law of return is there, and they're welcome home.
How long did the process take for you? Was it like a year? Was it
a year? Yeah, a good year for. And I think what I would say to the Jew that wants to come home is plan. Every Jew needs to plan big time before they make that move. And the Agency of Israel, Jewish Agency, will help them. And there's many programs that will help them. But I think the biggest thing to do is, if you're Jewish, talk to your rabbi, and talk to, the Jewish resources, and see what's good for you to make Aliyah. And Baruch Hashem, Yom Yom to the Jew who wants to go home, and allow them to come home freely. And the Jewish state makes it easier. So when they arrive, they are given a real, generous absorption package, and they help them learn Hebrew, and they call it the Ulpan, and they start from the letter of all the way from A to Z, and it's Dalet Bet Gimel Dalet Hey Vav Zayin Chet Tet Yud Kaf Lamed Mem Nun Samach Ayin Pei Tzadik Kuf Resh Shin Tav, and they learn from there, and they speak Hebrew, and they teach them, and they integrate, they help them. It's everything's hard at first, but I think if you go to Israel for the wrong intentions, it's not going to work out. But if you go for the right intentions, it'll work out. It did for me.
So Jerusalem is a very important city. So you're Messianic, so a Messianic Jew. So meaning you believe in the Bible. So what would you say? How would you say that Jerusalem is better than Tel Aviv?
Well, of course, I would say Tel Aviv is a very liberal city now, and it always kind of has. I think Jerusalem is the holiest city in the world, and Jerusalem for any Jew, whether they be Messianic or Jewish, I would very much say that Jerusalem is a very holy city, and in Jerusalem, it's more about holiness and being one with God, and so for the Jew, it's very important. Tel Aviv, on the other hand, it's quite the opposite. So, it's a hustle and bustle. It's like Las Vegas at night. Only it's it's the city that never sleeps in Israel. And I'm not saying it's a bad city. I just say it's a different plateau. It's a different city as far as Israel. And so in Jerusalem, you have the Judean mountains between the Mediterranean and the Dead Sea, and it's one of the oldest cities in the world. And so it's one of the holiest three major cities in the world. You have the Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But I think the most part is it's a holy city. It's where one person gets right with their maker. And I think that Tel Aviv is quite the opposite.
So I could get lobster in Tel Aviv, but probably not in Jerusalem, is what you're saying.
Probably not. unless you went on the back door to someone's house or somewhere that there's
So as a Messianic Jew being there, what was that like? You know, did you experience persecution? Were they open to you? What was that whole experience like? We have a lot of freedoms in America that I'm sure you have there as well, but maybe culturally it would be a lot different.
Yeah, well, I think for the most part Israel is a democracy. It's the only democracy in the Middle East. And so Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, and well, not like the whole, you know what I'm saying? It's mostly it's more Americanized. So
Sure.
excuse me. So
A lot of
here's the
Western
answer.
influence. Yeah.
Absolutely. So in Israel, I don't proselytize. I don't think as a Messianic, you know, that's the biggest misconceptions of the Christian faith is, yeah, we should get out there now and proselytize and do it. Excuse me. I don't think doing that is the way we need to do it. I think we need to live it. And so Yeshua lives in me, and I don't go out and proselytize into the Jewish state of Israel. I never did. And so I think the key is being a Messianic is staying in your Messianic synagogue. And if a Jew wants to come to Jesus, I think it's important that they see Yeshua in you and you don't jab it down their throat. That to me is the biggest misconcept in the Christianity faith. I think Jesus was more relaxed as far as he wasn't like, get out there and chase people. He was more like, allow him to live in you and let his love in you, outworking in you, produce the fruit of his Holy Spirit. And so, and I think that it's important as a Messianic that we not engage and slam the Jewish state of Israel. And I'm not saying you are. I'm saying as a believer, I think we need to love the Jewish state, because God said in the end that there will be a remnant, and there is always going to be a remnant. And Jews are a very important, community. And I think it's important that as a Messianic, we love them and show God's love and not get out there and cram Jesus down there.
Right.
It's not the way. And so in Israel, I never went out and proselytized and said, hey, Jesus. I don't do that. And everyone knows me that I don't do that. It's not my style. And I don't think I'd ever do that. I mean, Jesus didn't do that. Jesus never went out there. He walked, and yes, he claimed to be the Messiah, but he never went out there and said, go get them now. He ate with the tax collectors. He ate with he healed the sick. It's there. So, yeah, that's the biggest misconception.
How difficult is it in Israel to find a Messianic gathering, or I don't know if you call them church over there, but
there's synagogues, and it's not difficult at all. I think the problem is the misconception of the Messianic. Question to you is, was Jesus a Messianic? If you think about it, he was a Jew, right? But he's God, so he's not a Messianic. He's God, right? So what is the concept of what I'm trying to say is in Israel, I think if you go around, if you just be yourself, I think that's what it's about. Be yourself. Don't try to be something that you're not, and work out your own salvation. People will see that. Really, they will. And Israel doesn't have a problem with Messianics. It's the problem with proselytizing and forcing Christianity upon Jews who really don't want to believe. And so I think that's what I'm talking about. So
like America, at least, so I probably should back up a little bit. So the first time I ever went to Israel, well, the only time I ever went to Israel was with Yossi, and this was back in 2005. And I mean, my experience was that for the most part, it was pretty secular. Um, I don't remember really bumping into. You and I were there on our own. We weren't there with a group or anything. So, it was just us, and we didn't really run into a whole lot of believers. And I don't remember outside of Jerusalem anyway, getting that vibe like it was a very religious, um, you know, part of the
See,
world.
that's the beauty of Judaism. Judaism teaches that in the Torah, that, and every rabbi will tell you that they don't even proselytize, or they don't even in the Torah. It's forbidden to. It's mostly, I wouldn't say forbidden, but it's not. They don't go out and try to.
Right, they're not knocking on doors and stuff, yeah.
No, they never do. And so a Jew is never forced to come to the synagogue. So I think what you're trying to say, and it's a good point, is the community is really strong, and Israel is what you make it. If you want to be a Jew and be Judaism, you may go and you may practice Judaism. All is welcome. If you are a Messianic, there's a Messianic place for you there. If you don't want to be holy, Tel Aviv's a good place to live.
You're right. Get a ham sandwich if you want.
And I think when we were there, we seen that, you and I.
Yeah.
And I took you there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It was a big shock, because we were in Jerusalem for a good week and a half or so, and then we went to Tel Aviv for the last part of the trip, and it was a big shock because here you are in this, Jerusalem's. I thought it was a beautiful city, and man, you go to Jerusalem or you go to Tel Aviv, and it was like, whoa. It's like San Diego, New York, and Las Vegas kind of all wrapped up into one city, and it was hot, and it was shocking.
It was a lot of heat.
Yeah, it was super humid. So when you and I were there back in 2005, we were there at the height of the Gaza pullout. And they were actually, it hadn't happened yet. There were demonstrations going on, and there was a lot of tension at that time. I think it was about a month away from actually happening. We were there in July of 2005, and I think it happened, shortly afterwards. But that was a long time ago now. That was 15, 14 years ago. What does it look like now? What's the climate now?
So that the Israeli disengagement from Gaza was an Israeli-Palestinian peace process that Ariel Sharon, my prime minister at the time, tried to, make peace by giving up, Gaza. We say Gaza in Hebrew, not Gaza, because Gaza is, and here's another thing you might want to listen to. After he made that agreement and Israel settlers were pushed out of there, because I live in a settlement, and I live in a Jewish settlement in Jerusalem, and I have a house there, and so I would say, I live in the Ma'ale Adumim, in the Jewish settlement, and so I would say after that, sadly, Ariel Sharon slipped into a coma, and he stayed into a coma for years.
Yeah.
And so the Israeli settlers received it was like 200,000 in compensation for leaving, but there was 21 settlements had to leave that strip and relocate, and it was very bad. And after that, rockets were fired the next week after they just started firing rockets at us.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us moved to the Jordan Valley and a lot of major settlements like Ma'ale Adumim, and that's where I'm from. I'm from Ma'ale Adumim, and excuse me, and that's where my house is. and we relocated. I relocated. I ended up going to Mali Atanim when I went to Israel, and so we're gonna. That's in Jerusalem, but they say it's in the West Bank territory, which I disagree. It's in the Green Line, but it's in the Judean desert, which has always been ours. So, but Ariel Sharon, he made a mistake in my book, and he should have never ever wrote that letter to George Bush, wanted to advance into a peace settlement. So I was against it.
Yeah, no, and it was pretty dramatic when we were there. Kids protesting in the streets, and there were those orange ribbons everywhere, and you could feel the tension. You could feel like it was kind of everything was about to go off, and sadly it did. And the images of these families being forced out of their homes, which they had been there for years and years and years. It was really heartbreaking.
I don't know if you know this, but in 2004, Sharon's government approved that disengagement plan, and a lot of people don't know this, but his son had a lot to say in that. But there was an approval of 14-7 majority, but the National Union ministers and the cabinet members, Avigdor Lieberman and Leon, dismissed the cabinet, and they dismissed from the cabinet, and they pretty much. The Likud cabinet, Tzipi Livni, went on. They went on. It was a big, showdown, and we ended up pulling out, and the IDF, ended up going in and we ended up having more wars because they would not stop firing rockets at us. So,
right.
And so, Sharon said that, it would be peace, but I had never seen the peace. I'm seeing more peace now with the agreement that we're having with the Arab nations. So,
yeah, what is the feeling there? I guess among the so-called Palestinian. I mean, do you think that they're growing tired of this? I mean, constant. They're basically used, in my opinion, as props by the Arab nations to kind of stoke that anti-Israel, the Israelites came in or the nation of Israel came in and stole the land, blah, 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 right? And I don't believe that, for a second, but, do you think that the everyday guy living in Gaza, is just tired and just, man, let's just have peace so that we can all get on with our lives? Or
that is a very good question, and you want to know the answer to that? I'll tell you. I have that answer, and it's quick and easy. The answer is recognize Israel as a Jewish state, and, recognize us and recognize that Israel has a right to exist. We've been there before anybody. Emperor Hadrian coined the name Palestine. It wasn't even named Palestine.
Right.
It was always Jerusalem. And I think if, the Arabs would recognize Israel, the Philistines would recognize Israel as a Jewish state, I think that, that's the first step to peace. And understand that the IDF, and let me tell you something for your listeners. You may not know this, but Israel, the IDF has Arabs serving in the army and Christians.
Right.
And we have generals that are IDF, Arab Israelis, that are joining the IDF, and they want to serve the IDF as Muslim soldiers, and they feel happy. They know that a Muslim in the IDF can serve, and a lot of people don't understand that they can serve, and that it's not dangerous.
Right.
We trust them.
Right.
And it's happening. The other Arabs are saying, hey, you know what? IDF, they're accepting Muslim soldiers and Christian soldiers, and it's a democracy. And so female soldiers, Muslim female IDF soldiers are coming in, and it's amazing to see the equality that Israel has to offer other the Middle East, that other Middle Eastern countries will never offer a woman in general.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, they're in the battalion units. There's so the Palestinian villages have IDF soldiers that are there, and in the lines, they're the lines of the Jordan Valley Battalion. They execute operations in the Judea and Samaria, and they have they're in our army. We serve together. We live together. We eat together, and we love together. And a lot of media like CNN and other liberal media, they try to throw us under the bus, and I think the world's starting to see that now.
Yeah. Yeah, what is kind of the vibe there, outside of, say, the IDF and the military, when we were there, this was years ago, so I'm sure it was way different.
Many years ago.
Yeah, it was over a decade ago. But
there were areas that we were at that, we were surrounded by Arabs, and no big deal, it was just kind of normal life, and I felt safe, and we, went, ate, and did whatever it was we were doing for the day. And then there were times where we were in maybe a little shadier areas, and we, we were like, well, I think it's time to leave. But I mean, I think what a lot of people don't understand is that, I was just going to say, I think that a lot of people don't understand that it is very mixed there, the cultures. And
let me explain to you. The IDF has a unit called the 585, and it's made up of volunteers from Israel's Bedouin and Arab Christians. And so you have Lieutenant Colonel Ayada, his name is. He's the commander of the IDF unit 585, and it's a strong unit, and so they ward off threats from the Gaza Strip and other threats, and so they ward off Egypt, Hamas, issues. They get rid of the Hamas, terrorist group, and they, we live together in peace. It's a Druze. Also, I don't know if you know this, but we have a Druze. It's Druze. I wish you would Google it. We have a Druze, Arab, outfit that's in the IDF Unit 585, and it's full of men who volunteer all the time, and they're very faithful. In fact, there was a terrorist attack against us Jews in the synagogue, and I do believe the Bedouin soldiers and the Arab soldiers came in there and they eliminated the threat that was against us Jews. So we have shalom in the IDF with Arabs. We have a very special unit, and we're very proud of the Arab units and the Christian units that are there to serve Israel and to protect our borders. And we take our hats off to them.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Absolutely. Israel is a democracy. That's what is the beauty of Israel. And as a Jew, you can know that you're protected in Israel. You're going to be protected. You're going to be able to go freely with your kippah, with your yarmulke on your head. You're not going to have the issues, the stare downs, the throw downs, the look at the Jew or this or that. You're not going to have the anti-Semitism that you're going to have in parts of Europe, not all Europe. You're not going to have the anti-Semitism that you're going to have in Russia and also in Morocco or Ethiopia. And so you're going to see the peace in Israel. Baruch Hashem to, whoever wants to make Aliyah. I think it's a good thing to do. And we're all together. We all serve together, and we all love together. And I think the barriers have been broken from the negative thoughts about Israel.
Awesome.
One of the things that Yossi has going on is he has a podcast that is doing quite well. He's been doing it now since the beginning of the year, I believe, called Growing in His Word, where he teaches through the Bible. He's actually going through the New Testament right now. We have Growing in His Word. It was made to teach verse by verse, and it's something that I enjoy to do. I love to teach the Bible, and it's
It's on every podcast. You can find us anywhere you want. Our podcast is on, we're on every podcast. So just Google growinginhisword.com, and we're on iHeartRadio. We're on, you name it, we're on there. We're there, and
Yeah, we'll add a link in the description that you could click on to get to his podcast. Cool. Man, is there anything that I guess you could that you want to leave us with, as far as either a message to people that want to visit Israel, Jews that want to come home, people that want to best support, a lot of Christian believers, Christians, they love Israel, they love the Jewish people. How could they support, obviously, in prayer? But
here's how you could give back to the biggest thing for a Christian to do is to help a Jew. I believe that in my heart. And so I believe the Christian community, if they want to donate, they should donate to the Jewish Agency, okay? The Jewish Agency reaches out to the lost, to the Jews, wherever they are, to help them bring them back home. I would say prayer. On a Christian note, for the Christians, I would say go to the Jewish Agency and donate if you feel led. Donate to the Jewish Agency of Israel. That's where you're going to do the most help for the Lord. You're going to bring back the Jew home where he belongs, and you're going to be doing a great thing for the Jewish state of Israel. Secondly, for the Jew, Baruch Hashem, Yom Yom, Bo, Israel, Aliyah, is Chul B'Cheder. It's a good mitzvah for you, and it's the Jewish way. It's, come home. You belong in Israel. It's Israel. So this is your mitzvah, and you have a right to come home. And when you do come home, plan before you come. Plan. Planning is the key, and Israel will make you feel at home. You belong home. Come home to the Jew. You're welcome.
Well, Yossi, thanks for joining us this week, man, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and to share your experience. I'd love to have you back on the show again. Maybe we could talk about the end times. There's a lot going on in the news, it seems like, every day, and I think it'd be really interesting to take a dive and see just how all these events are going to tie into to end times prophecy, and where Israel fits in that, and all the things that we read in the newspaper and hear about these agreements or these world events and how they're shaping that area. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, you're welcome. And remember, Israel is a fun place to go and visit. Please come and visit after the coronavirus. But
yeah.
Come to Israel, Gabe. I've taken you there, and the food is awesome. The people are awesome, and safety is number one priority. It's safe there. You can leave your door open at night. Don't believe the news. A lot of false liberal news. Listen, Israel is a peaceful nation. Israel is a Jewish nation, but Israel is a nation who welcomes you, no matter what. Come to Israel and see where the Lord fed the 5,000. Come to Israel and enjoy. Come to Israel, you'll love it, and you'll never want to leave.
We hope that you enjoyed this week's episode. You can connect with Yossi by clicking on the links in the show notes.
Be sure to tune in next week for another episode of Oh My Geekers.